Hello, welcome back to another Home Recording Weekly video. Guys, my name is Kern, and if you know me from the website or the Home Recording Weekly podcast, you know I'm into producing my own music in a home studio, recording my own music and other people's music. I record, I write music, I'm a mix engineer, I dabble in mastering, I master everything that I make anyway. And I'm also a live sound guy. I do live sound for a few bands and other things. So I kind of got my hands in a lot of stuff. Along the way, I learned how to use, EQ and compression, multiband dynamics, multiband compressors, all kinds of tools, limiters and things like that. And as we get better and better at our craft, whether it's recording or mixing or mastering, we start to collect plugins. As we get better, we decide we like this plugin or maybe this compressor for this task. This EQ is better for this. And we start to amass plugins, right? Well, early on, and I mean early, I'm going to bring this up right here in front of you. Early on, I got turned on to Ozone. IZotope makes a handful of plugins for mixing and mastering and recording and stuff. One of the most powerful tools that I've ever come across is the Ozone plugin. This is an old one. This is Ozone 5, and I had this for a long time, and I learned to love it. Ozone is a bunch of professional plugins. There's EQs, reverbs. This is the old one. This is Ozone 5. Harmonic exciter, multiband dynamics, stereo imaging, and a post EQ as well. Then this is the old one, and it was really, really, really good. I have it bypassed because I upgraded. I got the new Ozone 7. Right out of the gate, let me tell you that this comes up and it has a whole host of presets. If you're not sure what you want to do, you can click through the presets, find something that sounds good, reverse engineer it, figure out what's going on, and then tweak it to make it your own. I chose to not have the presets populate. However, as you see here, it says click an arrow to load a preset. Now, Ozone is usually sold as a mastering plugin. People usually talk about it like that. I use it when I'm mixing a lot. I use it when I'm mastering even more. And as you're about to see, it's just super flexible, super incredible. It can be easy to use if you want it to be, and then it can be one of the most complex plugins you've ever seen, again, if you want it to be. I'm clicking here and I'm changing the screen. I don't want to confuse you. I'm going to make this very easy for all of us as I do a full review and a demo. So again, I've been using Ozone for years. I've gotten to love it and I lean on it a lot. I use it every time I make music, and I believe if you get a copy of Ozone, you will be using it just as much as I do. I don't want to confuse you. I just want you to know I wasn't given Ozone and I'm making a demo in exchange for it. It's one of these tools I was turned on to, and it's an all-in-one kind of plugin, and I just thought it's a no-brainer, and I picked it up years ago and I've been using it. So let's talk about it. What is Ozone? Well, Ozone is a host of plugins all in one package. To the right over here, you have a master section, like the main section. As you can see, there's a bypass. You can put your whole mix through it and put it in mono and listen, to your mix as you're working in mono, which is cool. There's a dither section here. A lot of these things I'm going to go through as I actually work, but just know there's a lot going on. You have excellent meters. I'm going to play some music just to get the meters going over here, so that you can see what's coming in and what's going out. You can sync them, you can lock them, you can change them independently, your left and your rights. There's a lot going on here. Now, what I've done is I clicked right here. It says click to insert module. This shows all of the different plugin modules that are in Ozone 7. You have an EQ, an equalizer, And that's incredible. You know, each one of these we're going to look at, but they're all incredible. You have a vintage EQ, a vintage tape emulation. You have a harmonic exciter, a vintage compressor. This says dynamics. It's a multi-band dynamic compressor. If I go back here, we have a dynamic EQ, we have a stereo imager, we have a post equalizer, which is different than the regular EQ. You have a vintage limiter, like a brick wall limiter if you want, or a softer one. And you have a maximizer, a sonic maximizer kind of thing. I'm going to show you the tools that I use every time I make music, and then I'm going to go through some of the other ones. I always use a stereo imager, and I do two major things with my stereo imager, which I'm going to share with you. First, let's go through it quickly. What is a stereo imager? Your stereo master, let's say we're mastering a song, and that's what I've got here. If you look up in this window, I took a mix that I was working on. It's an original song that I'm doing, and I simply bounced it out. It hasn't been mastered. It's just a mix, but it's perfect, you know, for this demonstration. Now, what I like to do is take all of my low end, my kick, my bass, maybe some synths, whatever is in there, and I like to put it in mono as I'm mixing. That way it's in the center channel. It's out of the way of guitars and vocals, things that I would pan hard left and hard right. So up top, if you click in these four bands, you can see the information down below changes, right? That is, you know, this pink is my low, and then you have low mids, high mids, and your highs. Each one, you can control how it's going through the spectrum. For example, if I click on this yellow one and I solo it right here, then it's just going to show the stereo imager for all of the frequencies between 2K and 9.21K of my mix. So what I have here in the low end is when I play, I'm going to take this out of solo. Whoops, I'm sorry, I should click on it. So over here, when I put this one in solo, this is my low end. I have it at 133 hertz, but I can move that. And you can see I have it in stereo. I'll bring it back up here. Just double click on it. I try to move it so I don't have much guitars, not many vocals. Basically, all I want down here is, like I said, the bass and the kick. And then I take this slider and I move it all the way down. And as you can see, it puts it in mono. Mono is straight up and down. The more pan throughout the stereo field it is, as you can see, the more wide it gets. You can have this in several different ways. I like this particular one. It's what I'm used to. There's no advantage or disadvantage. So the options are pretty crazy. You can have this thing demonstrated in a few different ways. I don't know, to be honest with you, like the advantages and disadvantages of having this thing show in different ways. I've never operated like that. And in the back, you can see it shows how much information is coming through in these bands, right? So what's the advantage of having that in mono? Like I said, first of all, it puts all of the low information in your ghost center channel in mono, and it frees up the hard left and right for different frequencies. Now, I'm going to take this in and out of bypass, and you can actually hear what's going on when I do it. So right now it's bypassed. And I'm going to take it out. Listen to the low end. Bypassed again right here. This is unbypassed. This is bypassed. it's not a huge difference, but things in the stereo field, the hard left and right, kind of sound less muddy all of a sudden when you put your lows in mono. So that's one thing I do. The next thing I do is I take the extreme highs, as you can see, from 9.2K up to 20K, and I boost them just ever so slightly up here. It just makes my mix sound a little bit more in stereo. Let's see what that sounds like. I'm going to bypass it, and then I'll bring it out of bypass. Again, it's not a big thing. I think a better mix engineer would certainly maybe do this to the overheads only and not the whole mix, but that's kind of something that I do. So that is my stereo imager. And as you can see, I put that first down here. If I didn't want that first, all I need to do is to grab it and move it wherever I want it. And how powerful is that? Just to be able to move things, you know, you can put the EQ before the compression or try it different ways and see what you like. So I should say, there's always options for whatever tools that you're using. Now this is a multiband compressor here, and I'm going to explain what it is and how I use it and why I think it's incredible. It's also a multiband limiter, as you can see. But if you look over here, you can have it in stereo mode, which is it treats the left and right, or you can have it in mid-side mode, where you can just compress the center channel, or you can compress both the left and rights. It's incredibly powerful to have that option, you know, right here in front of you. That is very powerful, expensive stuff. That's a very pro-level feature that not a lot of plugins have, but of course this has it. And you can have this thing be all the way dry or all the way wet, which means it's running this in parallel. I happen to have it all the way in wet, but you might decide you don't want to. A lot of hardware units were like that mastering engineers are using, you know. They don't like to do anything that you can hear. It's meant to be felt, or you miss it when you take it away. Like when you bypass it, all of a sudden it doesn't sound as good. But when it's engaged, you can't say, oh, I hear the multiband dynamics pumping, it sounds good, you know? That's what this parallel feature excels at. But as you can see, I have it here completely 100% wet. Some of you might not like that. So what is a multiband compressor? Basically, it has taken the place of an equalizer when I'm mastering. I got turned on to this through, I am a monthly member of several mix websites. For example, I do dueling mixes. I'm a Mix Coach Pro member. I am a member of the Mix Academy. And those guys always talk about multiband compression. And I watched a great video that Matt Weiss put out. He's with the Pro Audiophiles. And slowly but surely, I'm learning through David Glenn and Matt Weiss and all of those mix guys. Graham Cochran does this. Joe Gilder uses them sometimes. That you can use it like an EQ to control frequencies, a select range of frequencies in your mix. For example, if your low end is out of control, I mean, you like the way it sounds, you don't want to remove frequencies or anything, then you can compress them with a multiband compressor and, you know, basically control the dynamics of a frequency range, and it's quite incredible. So I have done that with the lows here. They were out of control to me. The low end was too powerful sometimes. I loved the way that it sounded, but it was just too much. So I put this on here again, I put it in solo and I move this around to where I get just the lows that I want, and then I compress them. But as you can see, it's only a 1.6 to 1 ratio, slower attack, fast release. I'm not doing a lot of compressing. I'm just getting the low end under control. So let's bypass and then I'll bring it in. So I brought the overall level, as you can see, it's being dynamically compressed about 1 decibel, and I brought it up 1.9. Here's my thinking. I have squashed the dynamic range of the low end, so it's not breaking through when the bass hits a note and then disappearing. Because I compressed it, it's more constant, it's more sustainy, it's present more. So then I can turn it up without that low end being too much. It's just a very cool way to think about EQing a mix. If you're having frequency breakthrough problems where maybe as one cymbal is, once that cymbal hits, is so loud in the mix, it's ruining it. And if you use an EQ to turn down those frequencies, well, then those frequencies are gone, right? And you don't want to do that. Well, a dynamic multiband compressor, you can select that frequency range and then control it dynamically. It's a very handy tool. It's taken me a long time to figure out how to use this to my advantage. And I'm going to put this in solo so you can hear what I've selected. I've selected from 20 hertz to 154 hertz. And I tried again just to make sure there are not many guitars or vocals in there. It's just the bass, the kick. Okay, so let's look through here. This particular frequency range from 154 to 2K. Again, I've got a 1.7 ratio, not a whole bunch. Pretty quick attack, 20 milliseconds, fast release. There's it jumps to 1 dB going on here, and I raised it up about 0.8. Now, this might be where a lot of your guitar stuff is between these two frequency ranges, and you can remove bands, you can add bands, whatever you want. And you can have the meter here in peak envelope, I guess that's what ENV stands for, or RMS, root mean square, which is your overall level. I have it in peak so that I can control the dynamics just by looking at it, right? These red numbers down here, that's my peak reduction with the compressor, my overall reduction. So you saw it jumps up to 1, right? So I'm squashing the dynamics. Again, I can turn this up if I want. Now, that's how this becomes an EQ, because I can take this frequency range and I can turn it up. That means it's going to be more present in my mix, or I can turn it down so that this whole frequency range gets turned down. That's how it becomes a lot like an EQ. Let's check it out. I'm at 0.8 right now. Let's check out if I turn it up or down. Pretty powerful stuff. Now, I can, again, take this and just bring in as much as I want. Let's hear what 50% sounds like, all right? And I'm going to bypass the whole unit. So this is like an EQ. It's like a compressor for your frequencies, and it's so incredible. And the more I play with it, the more I can learn things that I can do. Like when I'm mixing, I will put a multiband compressor on a bass, and it blows me away what's possible. It's so much different and better than an EQ. The possibilities are just crazy. You can put this on a drum bus, and you can just imagine. Once you start playing with this, it's addictive. It's incredible. Again, because it's an IZotope product, you have auto volumes, auto gains, adaptive, or it learns listens to the BPM of your song, and you can apply an adaptive release time. Very incredible, very powerful stuff. If you're not into multiband dynamics or multiband compression, get into it. Check it out. You don't have to use the IZotope Ozone 7 per se. I bet your DAW came with one. Get into it, learn it, figure it out, play with it. You are going to be a much better mix engineer or mastering engineer or even home recording enthusiast because you understand how to use it and you can get much better results. All right, let's move on. EQ. You might be saying, what can you do with an EQ that's so different? First of all, there's different displays, right? You can have without all the information on the bottom, and you can just use the different bands and sweep around, right? Okay, and you can highlight the bands down here that you want. You can have bring bands in, as you can see. I have them turned off currently, but you can have this thing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bands of EQ. You can bring them in and out to your heart's content. The way that it works is you bring them up or down where you want them, like a notch, and then you can widen the notches or make them very extreme. This thing is very user-friendly. You don't really need much to get going. It's, so easy. Anyway, you can also click on it and you can have all the information displayed. It does shrink the real estate that you have to EQ with. You can have an analog sounding or style EQ. You can have a digital EQ. And as you can see, when you choose the digital EQ, you can have it with phase correction down here. And this Q, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I understand what it is. I see proportional Q down here. Whatever. I know a phasing EQ, a digital EQ that does things with the phase of the frequencies that analog doesn't. It's all about the ear. And if you click on these, it'll tell you exactly down here what it is you're doing. You can choose the frequency range if you're a numbers person, and you can see in numbers what it is you're doing, applying things. It's all up to you. And there is a matching EQ. What is a matching EQ? Usually when you're mastering, you use several different songs in your genre. You use them as touchstones, as reference tracks for your song. You want your song to sound like popular music that's been mastered by professionals. So you can literally put this on a mastered song that maybe was done by Bob Ludwig mastering, like the big guys. And you can click matching and it analyzes those songs that you're using as references. And then it applies those EQ adjustments to your song. How cool is that, right? So you can literally have your song sound like a professional just by using matching. And if you don't like it, that's okay. You don't have to use it. It's just an option. Again, up here, you can have it stereo. You can have it just affect the mid frequencies or the side, and you can choose left, right, or both. I mean, how powerful is that? You can lock the sides so that everything you do is applied to both. Very powerful stuff right there. Again, that's a mastering feature you see a lot when you're mastering. And, for the bands down here, you can choose if you want it to be a low pass, a high pass, a shelf, a bell curve, whatever you want. One of the most powerful EQs you can have. It's a parametric EQ that has mid-side capabilities. Just amazing. Now, there's also a vintage EQ. If you remember, there's a vintage style EQ and there's a post EQ. So let's just check out the vintage EQ real quick. It's also parametric. I would call this a parametric where you can choose the frequency range that you want it to boost or cut, and you can turn it up and you can spread the Q out or make it more of a notch right here. I think this is better for different styles of EQs, like console emulation EQs. If that's how you've always worked, you're going to be right at home here, adjusting the frequency range with this. I'm not used to it. I don't like it, so I don't use it. I kind of like the fully parametric thing. That's what I'm used to, and that's what I use. All right, this is the vintage compressor. I have it hooked up as a master bus compressor, right? I'm only compressing 1.5 to 1 with a slower attack and a fast release. And if I push play on my song, very rarely am I compressing by 1 dB, and I've only turned up the master after the reduction by 0.6 dB. It's one of those things. It's not doing much, but you miss it once it's removed. So I use it just to bring down the dynamics of my song. And let me add, you've probably spotted it already. Over here, there is a competitor. This is IK Multimedia, the T-Rex brick wall limiter. I have that on right now only because I'm making a video. And I want to make sure I don't clip because I will hurt my system and your system, and I don't want that to happen. There are limiters inside Ozone 7, but I have Ozone on this mix track, not my microphone track. So I, of course, over here put T-Rex, the brick wall limiter, and that's why that's there. So it's not, I didn't do it because I don't like the limiter here in Ozone. That's not the idea at all. So you can have different modes with this vintage compressor. You can have sharp, balanced, or smooth. I don't know the difference, to be honest with you. I like smooth, so I selected smooth and it sounded good to me. But again, I can't really hear this compression in action because it's not doing much. You can have it, just compress the center or the ghost middle frequency or image. You can have it on both sides only. You can have it on the left or the right, whatever you want. Stereo, mid, side. Again, a professional feature that you can have. Now, I just erased it, and shame on me. I'm going to go ahead and put it back. I'm going to pause the video to do it. Okay, I think I'm close. I don't know. Now, what else do you have? Oh my gosh, you've got a vintage, I already said that. You've got a vintage tape emulation. This is a tape machine that you can have two different tape speeds, 15 inches per second or 30 inches per second. You can control the harmonics, the low emphasis, the high emphasis. Let's see what it sounds like. This is, again, it's on my whole mix. So if you don't like, saturation on your whole mix, then you're not going to like this. If you want it just on your kick drum, your snare, or your vocals, well, this is probably going to be more your speed. Let's see what it sounds like. Saturation is one of those things that has come out of this whole digital revolution. We realized that we missed it and we're struggling to get it back. So I do use tape machines. I use them on my drums. I use them on my guitars. I use them on all kinds of things, vocals. And just know that Ozone 7 has got an incredible vintage tape emulation inside. Now, exciters. I don't use exciters, not even in live sound. There's companies that make sonic maximizers and things, and I just don't use them. I don't know enough about them. It's kind of like saturation, right? This has warm, retro, tape, tube, triode, and dual triode. You know what? Let's put it on tube. And then you've got the low mids, upper mids, and high frequencies. And again, you can grab these and select them wherever you want. Let's just pick a frequency range and let's play with it. Okay, we're going to pick this one. Let's put it in solo. You know what? Let's play with the guitars. We'll use this band right here. like that, right? That's our frequencies. It's from 231 up to 3.2. It's massive, but hey, we're playing around. This is the blue, so I believe we go down here to this area. So let's put it back in solo and see what we're doing. Wow, that makes it louder, but it makes it sound so much better. A lot of saturation and fuzzes when you're mixing and mastering. It sizzles on the top end and it lets it cut through the mix. Whatever you're putting on, I take a bass track and I duplicate it, and I have one be the low, and then I have the second be just high frequencies of the bass guitar. And I like to fuzz it, I like to saturate it, and it just helps it cut through and it helps you notice it. I do that sometimes with an overhead mic on drums. I'll do it sometimes with a kick drum. I'll duplicate it and I'll separate all the lows out of it so it's just the attack of the kick drum, and I'll distort it, I'll fuzz it up, and it's incredible. If you're struggling to have your bass or your kick drum come through a dense mix, duplicate it, get rid of the low end on the duplicated track, and saturate it, and it will blow you away as you bring that track in with your fader. Same with this. I mean, that sounded incredible. And it's one of those things, no one's going to hear this mix and go, oh my gosh, you saturated the lower mids. But we miss it when we take it away, right? So keep it. Why not? And if you think that's messing up your EQ or your dynamic multiband compression, man, you can grab it and move it wherever you want it. You know, this is, they call these all-in-one plugins, all-inclusive. IZotope has been blazing the way, leading the way with their incredible plugins since I got into digital workstations. Since I started recording with computers, I've heard of IZotope, and this is why, because their stuff is incredible. It's awesome. It's flexible. Look over here, stereo or just mid and side. You can have this on just the left and right, not the center, or just the center. You can have it on just the sides. You can have it on the stereo field. Like, it's insane. Now, if I wanted to put saturation, just bypass what I did there. If I just want it on my low frequencies, and you remember here, my low frequencies up to 157 hertz are in mono. So if I want to take and excite them with a tape plug-in, let's just say, right, I can listen to it and I can apply saturation to just these lows. Let's see what that might sound like. So you can hear some of them are kind of taking away some of the lows. You know, that's what a tube does. Like, if you've ever had a bass guitar player and you give them a distortion or a fuzz pedal, they're not going to use it because a lot of the low end disappears when they use it. So let's see what's going on here. I got the lows in solo. Bypassed. 100% warm. Let's try retro and we'll go through them all. Retro. Whoa, that's like a square wave kind of fuzz, I guess. Tape. But when I take it out of bypass, or I'm sorry, when I bypass this effect, you hear the lows come back. And then this is really working on the high frequencies of the low, if that makes sense. Right? Let's try tube. I like how the harmonics are really getting destroyed with saturation. That's really good. And I got the mix at 100% here. You know, that might be cool at a low amount, right? Let's take that out of solo. Yeah, so cool. All right, let's keep going. I'll put it back in solo and we'll check out triode and dual triode. Ooh, that one's even better. That one's less harsh, maybe less aggressive. This dual triode, but equally as cool, right? It's one of those things, again, you miss it once you take it away. So I'm not actually going to use exciters. I mean, it's just not my gig. I haven't learned how to use them yet, so I don't. Let's see what the post EQ is, right? I assume that would go last in your chain. We have analog and digital here to choose from. We have a matching EQ. Oh, I think I've shown this to you already. Let's look at my EQ. Okay, it's just another EQ. Same options as the first one here. It's just this Ozone 7 allows you to have 2 instances. Now, let me tell you, when I go here to click in a module, you can see that some of them are not visible anymore. Like this EQ, it looks like the light has burned out where vintage EQ is still on. That's why there's 2 exact EQs here, is because it's letting you take 2 EQs in your chain, right? You're not going to need 2 imagers and things like that. And that's the idea here, is you can have one of each, and then you got to open a second instance of Ozone 7. But who cares, right? That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Now, this is a maximizer. And again, I'm not going to tell you I understand them or use them. I don't. Here's what I know. You have IRC1, these different standards. Maybe they work differently. I don't know. It's not like a dither, I can tell you that. I don't really know what's going on. I don't use them. I haven't learned how to use them. But if that's part of your signal chain, then geez, no, it's here. Again, you have a couple EQs, vintage EQ, you have a dynamic EQ, you have vintage tape, you have exciters, vintage limiters, compressors, maximizers. The vintage limiter is easy. You have analog, tube, and modern. I'm going to bypass, no, I can't. Never mind. I was going to bypass the limiter I have through the microphone, but I can't do that because I don't want to blow your ears out. So this limiter, simple, easy to use, analog. You have tube or modern. I always use the modern. I guess I get my saturation on the different tracks when I'm mixing, so I don't want to put it across the whole bus or the whole, sides and mid when I'm bouncing out. But here it is. It's very easy. You can have true peak limiting. You can adjust your threshold and your ceiling. I usually put my ceiling at either -2 or -3. Let's check out what it sounds like. So my computer is clicking and popping because I'm running video software behind this. I have my dog going, and it's really taxing on this computer. This is the computer I use to make videos, so it doesn't like to run music software at the same time. We're going on 40 minutes for this video, so it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. So please forgive that. Again, you have full scopes. You can visually see if that's how you like to work. And all the numbers are there if you want to see them. Again, if you get option paralysis, then be warned. You can take these modules as deep as you want. Or, like I said, you can just choose a preset that sounds like you, that sounds good, and learn what's going on, and then use it to your advantage. IZotope Ozone 7, it's powerful. I use it a lot when I'm mixing. I use it on all kinds of tracks. I wish I could tell you I use it just on kick or snare or overheads, but I use it on everything. Like I use it on drum buses, I use it on snares for saturation and kick drums, for multiband compression. I use it on the master bus, I use it on bass, I use it on vocals. And when it's time to master, I lean on Ozone very heavily. The imaging, I get, the lows in mono, the highs a little bit excited. I'm learning to use multiband compression like an EQ, but it's so much better, and you can tighten up a song so easily. Guys, this is where it's at. Multiband compression is incredible. And then, of course, it's going to sound different. So you have 2 EQs that you can choose from, or actually more. There's vintage EQs, there's digital EQs, there's analog EQs, there's a pre and a post EQ. Saturation for days, so many choices and chances to add saturation here. Guys, it's the new version. It's IZotope 7. It's a mixing tool. It's a mastering tool. If you're into live sound, this thing in your digital mixer will just do your job so well, and you can automate it. You can just have it on there, and you can forget it's even there, and your band will say, I don't know what you're doing, but it's so incredible. I love it. My name is Kern. I post home recording weekly. I'm sorry this video is so long, but I've just touched the surface. There's so much going on here. Lastly, if I didn't tell you, down here with the modules, you can bypass each one by itself. And I'm going to do that as I play this out. I'm just going to click on them and then bypass them and show you what each one of them is bringing to the table. Guys, my name is Kern. I post home recording weekly. Thank you for checking this out.